Hello and welcome. On today's show, Emek, poster artist and illustrator, and someone that we've wanted to find out more about after we saw one image in particular. Years back he had done a poster for a concert of Nick Cave, but had portrayed Nick Cave as a map, using images from his songs and things from his life, and it's a haunting image that you could never quite shake. Well, after that, we started looking around and we found out that he's done work for tons of people, from the Avett Brothers to Air, from Danzig to Neil Diamond, from Neil deGrasse Tyson to Rage Against the Machine to Erykah Badu, and the list goes on. It becomes apparent quickly that this exotic character, born in a kibbutz in Israel, is the guy that you go to when you need to visualize the intangible. So on today's program, we talk with Emek, E-M-E-K, and you can visit his webpage at emek.net. What follows is a portion of a conversation with artist and illustrator Emek. Speaking of heroes, I had to note that R. Crumb said, "Great design and impeccable political sentiments. What more could you ask for on a poster?" And he said that about your work. How did that feel?
Yes, he did. Well, again, so I kind of grew up with Zap Comics, and my parents are both artists. So when they would visit other artist studios and they would have the grown-up conversation, and I would be in the corner looking through record collections and whatever ephemera they had lying around. So the psychedelic art entered my world at a very early age, because in my dad's art studio, he had old vintage World War II posters and old opera posters and a lot of old 60s posters, just as like visual references. So I grew up always, like, even as a kid, my little drawings had like text in them, like Grateful Dead album cover style stuff. Like, I was always, even when it was gibberish, I was always putting text into my art.
So you do the happy picture of the dog under the sun, and somehow there's a text flow that goes through it?
Yeah, like,
that's
yeah. You know, I just, like, all my visual world had, like, writing in it from looking around my dad's art studio growing up, and he would make his giant paintings, and I would sit in the corner and draw on the wall or scraps of paper.
Any other favorite artists or big inspirations?
Well, you kind of caught me off guard. Let's say, yeah, I mean, for sure. So, I mean, growing up with Zap and like, so the 60s posters transitioning into underground comics, because there was overlap there with Victor Moscoso and Rick Griffin and R. Crumb, who did comics and design work or poster work. Yeah, in my dad's art studio, he had a library of Albert Durr, like old woodcuts, you know, and old Japanese woodcuts. So I liked, like, every little square inch of space had details and line work. So that was an influence, for sure. Like, and watching my dad paint was my biggest influence. And my mom too. I mean, my parents always want to remind me, like, hey, we are still alive. Like, don't say we were an influence. Don't say we were artists. We still are.
Still here. Wave the flag.
So yeah, my mom just recently had a show like a few months ago at a nice gallery in Portland. And my dad still paints and sculpts and does whatever he does every day. It's part of his
And we'll make
life.
a connecting link in the description on this talk as well, and so you can go through and you can actually connect and see some of the family's work, which there's this huge breadth. There's amazing diversity, which it's really great to see.
Oh yeah, my brother does amazing work. My sister. So yeah, it's definitely a family thing.
And you were born in Israel on a kibbutz.
Yeah, so like the kibbutz that I'm from was very progressive. They were very much into the peace movement, and it's complicated and it's old stuff, you know, like, but yeah, a lot of thinkers. I mean, the philosophy was you need to know how to be a good farmer and you need to know how to be a good philosopher. Like, it was hand in hand, a book in one hand. Like, everyone prided themselves on knowing how to work the earth, and they would always have like political discussions and philosophical discussions. So it was a sense of pride to be able to work with your hands, but also to use your mind.
Yeah, that's amazing. So
I can't speak for all kibbutzim or kibbutzes, but my kibbutz was definitely like early socially conscious and whatever.
So it really was, we're going to raise the whole person. We're going to grow a complete person rather than, you'll just work on, you'll just do coding. You'll just do the farming. This was...
Well, so every generation has its transition. When you're building something from nothing, it's much more ideology. And then once it's established, the kids that are born into that system, then they want to take it into another direction than their predecessors. So there's generational shifts, but I can go on about that whole stuff. But yeah, I was born on a kibbutz, and my parents are artists. So yes, we always took pride in working with our hands. So at an early age, my dad taught me like how to work on cars and how to cut cement and put in a door and move plumbing and electrical. Like, it's like I built my first art studio with my dad from scratch, from pouring a foundation and everything. So, pride in working with your hands is one aspect, and art is just one manifestation of the creativity of that.
That's one of the first things that kind of hit me about your work. Was there's the old saying of writing about music is like dancing about architecture, which is basically saying that you can't carry over some of the intangibles. It just doesn't work that way. Well, actually, I think you've kind of done that, though. You kind of have carried over the intangibles. Or if the music is kind of a carrier or is a holder for a world or a sentiment or an understanding, your work really does catch that in a really amazing way. Is that something that you've always kind of had, was this ability to tap into the gist of something beyond just lyrics or beyond just an approach?
Well, so thank you for the compliments. I mean, I'd like to think everyone interprets music differently, and plus there's so many genres and people. Like, I like to think like I have different moods, so I listen to all different kinds of music. I don't limit it to I only like this one style. So and my art is the same way. When I was little, my parents would take me and my brother and my sister to museums and galleries, and we'd see stuff we liked, all different kinds, from abstract art to representational to sculpture. And then we'd come home and try to recreate it ourselves because we couldn't afford anything, but we wanted to have, cool stuff on our walls. So I grew up drawing in a variety of different styles because I was influenced by so many things. And I listened to a variety of different styles of music as well. And so what I love about it is I close my eyes and then I see images. So definitely for me, in my line of work, I listen to a band's music before I go to bed, and then I have dreams and visuals, and then I come up with ideas. So they're always triggered by the music in some way, but how they then kind of unravel and, I don't know, come out, but the catalyst is always listening to a particular band that I'm working with and then seeing what comes out. And what I love about it is that the bands that approach me, they're like, just do what you do something our fan base will like. So that gives me so much creative freedom to kind of just explore, to see what I want to draw. And then I come up with a concept. And then from there, I figure out what style I want to draw it in. But for me, it always starts with a concept that's triggered by the music in some way. And then keeps it fun, keeps it interesting, mixing
it really
it up.
Stunned me when it's funny. There are some artists that are so distinctive, not just stylistically, but as humans. Like Erykah Badu came to mind immediately. It's like, she is a complex, wonderful person. I always love hearing interviews with musicians of how much they demur when they're around her. That quote unquote, you can't look her in the eyes. That she's just there's something bigger than freaking life.
It's so true.
Yeah, in Erykah.
Yeah, when I first met Erykah, like the first time I ever met her, I couldn't sleep, and I had to make a piece of art and give it to her as a gift.
Wow.
And then and then her manager said, "Oh, everybody does that when they meet her."
No kidding.
Like
This is the natural reaction.
Something about her aura and her personality. Yeah. And I was just like, it was such a, I can't explain it, but I worked with Erica. I don't know. We've been working together for a long time. I do album covers, tour posters, merchandise, all that stuff.
But you well distill the complexity of her as a person, that there's this quality, you can't typecast her. I don't care what she did 2 years ago or what you think of her style, what you associate with her. There's something that's uncontainable, that kind of almost life force is overflowing or something, kind of thing about a certain artist like her. And I thought, in looking through the work, it's like, gosh dang, you've really caught the wild complexity, the uncontainability of it, of Erica at her best, that's really amazing.
Well, when you work with someone that's inspiring, it definitely gives you a lot more freedom and then passion to create.
That's the other thing that kind of hit me, was the more I kind of sat and tried to look through everything as much as I could find about you, the less I could typecast you. Like from the Avett Brothers, of this kind of beautiful American sense of that kind of pastoral sense, almost this kind of purity, to the French band Air and that kind of crystalline, cleanness of their sound, to Rage, at all points in between, Danzig.
Yeah.
It was amazing to go through.
Yeah. I have some great Danzig stories from 25 years ago or something, but another time.
So artists do seek you out. There's a natural process that tends to happen where you soak in the stuff, you soak in music as well as presence, and then something happens.
Yeah, for sure. It is I don't know, I like to think as a symbiotic relationship, but maybe I'm just a parasite. Maybe I'm just gleaning off of their work. But I like to think that, one example is like Erica flew me down to her studio to see what she was working on, because she's like, I'm not going to play you stuff over the phone because last time I did that, it got leaked. So come down, we'll hang out. So I go to her studio and help her kids with their homework, and she cooked me a really nice vegetarian meal, and she's just awesome energy. But then she's like, draw me something so I can write a song about it. And I'm just like, no, that's not how it works. I have to listen to your music and then I'll get ideas. But she is a very hands-on person. Like, she gets involved. Some bands or management or band, because every deal is different. Like, I work with sometimes someone in the band, I work sometimes with the record company, but they're like, listen to our music and do what you do. But with Erica, she's more hands-on, more involved. So it definitely was more of a togetherness working relationship, which is special.
So special. You basically go down and be part of her life for a bit, which that's such a gift.
Yeah, several times. I mean, her mom is a hoot. Her mom is the best. So
wow, you're fam. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I was going to ask. There's a lot of people that it seems to kind of hit a sweet spot for them and for you. But even in whether it's Foo Fighters or Queens of the Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal, in every instance, you do end up with almost kind of different sets of imagery. And again, is it the same process, or do you kind of refer back to what you've done in the past, or is every time unique?
So, so when you're working with, I guess in the subculture, subgenre, whatever, of rock and roll, there's certain visual elements that are part of the language. So you have your skulls and you have your whatever it be, but there's certain tropes or cliches or just part of the vocabulary. So yeah, I like to work within the confines of that medium, but then I like to push the boundaries. And again, like when I listen to music and I say, oh, well, this song reminds me of this or evokes this feeling in me, so I'm going to draw on that style and make it more pretty, or this one's more aggressive, or this one's more political. So the music inspires me. And then, so like recently I did a poster for the Pixies, and in that poster, I put elements of previous Pixies posters that I've done over the years. So it's kind of like there's little hints of things, and I do that with Queens of the Stone Age a lot, where I'll throw in something in the corner that is from a previous, shout out to a previous thing I've done. So for me, it's entertaining, and then to see people that like my work, and then they'll notice it too, and like, oh yeah, this is from that 2003 thing, or
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I keep it fun for me, and I like to think the one thing that kind of the overall like umbrella or what contains me as a style is the fact that I work within a particular medium of rock and roll posters for the most part. But within that, I can do laser cutting or embossing or printing on denim or printing on velvet, or like in the fine art world, if you do a velvet painting, it's considered cheesy. But if you can do that in the rock and roll world, people are like, whoa, that's groundbreaking.
Indeed. Or even, I was noting too, printing on maps that you did U.S. Bombs and Reno Divorce. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That whole thing of just using standard USGS quads as this imprint format behind everything.
Right.
Yeah.
That was fun. Like, again, I get ideas. Like that was a cool, like, hardcore skate band called U.S. Bombs. And so I said, well, why don't we just do a giant bullseye at Target and say, and have the information, but as the paper, I will get actual old maps, and each one will be a different old map with the same print on it, but it'll be like a big target, like U.S. Bombs.
And the end result was ridiculously diverse and really cool. Everyone worked in a different way somehow. It was really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I love old maps. I love the details, and I have 2 family members that are cartographers or did it for a while, so yeah, all that little detail stuff.
That's our peeps. For sure. Real quick, on the Nick Cave map, it was for a show in Manchester back in 2006. And it did you meet him at any point?
Yeah. Prior to the show, I met him at a small performance in Los Angeles years before that event. So I've always kind of been I've been a fan before I met him even, but yeah, he has an interesting aura too.
I always think he strikes me. I was always interested that when he was young, he said at one point that all those biblical stories that he was told somehow kind of imprinted on his mind of this whole thing, these epic tales of beauty and horror all kind of wrapped into one.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and murder ballads and right, a lot of biblical kind of imagery in his work for sure. And so that particular poster.
No, but go ahead. You were saying like that vibe of kind of the trauma of life. That's not a stage show thing. That's really Nick Cave. Is that kind of what you experienced?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple of musicians that I've worked with or met, and it's like they give everything on stage, and they're vulnerable, and it's like they show the dark side and everything, but they're expressing themselves, they're exposed, and it's like this moment that they create you're feeling like you're a part of something really special, and then they're totally spent after the show. There's like, there's backstage, but there's this like, they gave it all on stage, and that's it. There is no more.
And so in the map poster that you did for Nick Cave, it's beautiful on so many levels. The poetic image of him as the ocean, this outline that makes up kind of a view of him, and then there's all the songs. I mean, going back,
so there's 50 different song references in it. And actually, when the poster was first released, there was a contest to see whoever could. So first, I have to say that the poster itself is a collaboration with my brother, who's an artist. So he gets a lot of the credit for this project too. And his stuff is amazing. He's my younger brother, though, so I'm the lead man on the team. But yeah, he did a really great work on this poster. So it's one of my proudest moments as far as getting a chance to work with my family, and also what we've created together. It was a real labor of love. I mean, there was so much work involved in this particular piece. Yeah, a lot of song references, and meanings to it. I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I finally got you. Sorry, that's terrible. I've got technical difficulties at the worst time. Yeah, I apologize.
That's okay, it happens.
So yeah, in essence, the Nick Cave that I'm thinking of, that is a to the marrow experience, and what you kind of conveyed of, again, an image of that kind of biblical complexity, the irony.
Right, no man is an island, but who knows how deep we are.
Indeed.
Something like that.
Indeed. Gosh,
the depth of his soul.
Yeah. Man, have a great day, have a great weekend, and we'll hope to catch you again.
You're great, thank you.
Our thanks to Emek for a chance to chat and learn a bit more, and our apologies to everyone, especially Emek, for our technical difficulties. Something that we're ironing out and will get fixed. Please feel free to contact us at newprojectionscast@gmail.com. Catch you next time.